I wanted to educate, I wanted to really work with these animals, getting their, voice heard. I'm not into people saying they're voiceless. I believe they have a voice. I believe people just aren't listening.
We all connect to a horse or a dog as an animal with the soul that we can have a relationship with, or a cat, but pigs too. And actually aren't pigs smarter than dogs actually?
Pigs are the fourth smartest animal behind elephants, dolphins, and orangutans. All I want is for the animals. I want them to have a better life. Their pasts are so bad that each day I want to make it better so that they forget their past. And that's my goal, is to just make every day better than the last so they forget their past, because their past have been so tragic.
Hey, I'm Dr. Doug. I'm a chiropractor for both animals and humans. My life's passion is volunteering at farms and helping rescue animals in need. Join me as we connect with people who have dedicated their lives to helping animals. Together we'll discover how helping animals live better lives will teach us to be better humans. Welcome to the Animal Cracker Podcast. Today we have a very special guest joining us, Todd Friedman, the passionate and dedicated founder of Arthur Acres Animal Sanctuary, located in the heart of Hudson Valley, New York. Arthur Acres is a sanctuary that provides a loving and safe haven for farm animals in need, with a special focus on rescuing pigs. Todd's commitment to rescuing, rehabilitating, and providing lifelong care for these animals is truly inspiring. He also shares the sanctuary's heartwarming stories and daily life with a large audience on Instagram, where he's garnered an impressive following of over 92,000 followers. Join us as we dive into the incredible work being done at Arthur's Acres and learn more about Todd's journey and the wonderful animals he's dedicated his life to saving. How did that sound? That was good, right?
Yeah, but we got a YouTube following, about 185,000 subscribers.
Oh, good. Keep talking.
Facebook, 210,000 followers. And I don't see TikTok, but I think we have 8 or 9 people on TikTok. I think I'm too old for TikTok.
I've done a few of these podcasts already, but Todd is actually someone I've met in person, because I've been to your farm like 3 times, I think, and worked with the animals. And so that's really exciting, because we know each other.
Yes.
And Todd also has, you were a massage therapist, or trained as a physical massage therapist.
Massage therapist.
So it's really cool when I'm at his farm. We share the love of doing body work on either, people or animals. And so he's really an amazing physical therapist with these animals. But before we get into specific stories, I'd love to just hear how did you start this? And I know, but I want you to share it with people, because you've already told me personally. But tell the story of how this actually happened, and how many years have you had this farm, and how did it come to pass?
I've always loved animals. I've always had a passion for animals. I've always been drawn to animals, and I've always had animals in my life. And, I've done kind of everything in my life, from a ski instructor in Aspen, Colorado, to owning bagel shops, to I had a small printing business. I had an online business. I've done a little bit of everything. And about 10 years ago, a little 11 years ago, I had my business in New Jersey, and I was working, and it became like a Groundhog Day situation. I was doing what I was doing for 10 years. And I said, this isn't working for me, and I wanted to see what else is out there. And I started volunteering at a sanctuary up in upstate New York. I did that pretty regularly for 2 years. At the end of the 2 years, I was literally driving back and forth 2 hours, Saturday, and 2 hours Sunday. So back and forth 2 hours each way, and working 5 days a week as well. And decided that, I had enough of people, society. It was getting really hard, because people were getting more demanding and less appreciative. And it was, hurting my soul a little bit. And I had to find something to feed my soul. And so I started volunteering. I was volunteering as I was selling my business and selling my house. I decided, I'm going to move to upstate New York. I'm just going to just move up here and figure stuff out. When I get up here, I'll figure out what I do. And the sanctuary I was volunteering at offered me a job. So I worked there for 2 years, enjoyed myself, found my real passion for pigs. I'd start my day off in the pig barn and end it in the pig barn. And this was a multi-species farm animal sanctuary. And so I work with cows, goats, chickens, ducks, bunnies, an alpaca, I got exposure to all animals, but I was really, really drawn to pigs. And I was going through a hard time. My dog had cancer, and I was just fighting, severe depression with my dog dying. And so at that time they rescued a mama and some piglets, and I found solace in them and healing in them. And so I decided I really wanted to focus on my own situation and focus on pigs. Like let's bring medical care, let's bring alternative care, let's bring all this to the pig world. And they are one of the most abused animals. They're they're so second thought to people's minds, when they think of, it's just bacon. They don't realize how much pain and suffering goes into that bacon, where you have it on your lips for 1 minute, but they have a life of suffering that goes into their food. So I wanted to educate. I wanted to really work with these animals, getting their voice heard. I'm not into people saying they're voiceless. I believe they have a voice. I believe people just aren't listening. So I decided to look at properties, and I looked at several properties that were terrible. And then when I came upon this property, I found I knew the real estate agent, so I said, just go on to the property. They're not there anymore. There's no one there. I'll meet you there. I started walking down the driveway of the property, and their rooster ran past me. And then I saw a peacock, and I was like, this is weird. And the real estate agent showed up, and I said, there's animals here. He's like, yeah, some were kind of left behind. The neighbor's supposed to be taking care of them. I heard there was like a horse or a pig or something like that. I said, oh, okay, bye. And I left him. He's like, where are you going? I said, I'm going to find the animals. This isn't okay. And go through some hallways and doors and found Arthur, a 3 to 4 month old pig that was locked in a hallway. It was the dead of August. It was 100 degrees. His food was filled with maggots. His water was black, and he didn't have access to the outside, and it was disgusting, and no one was caring for him. So I said to the real estate agent, and I stopped looking at the property. I said, you need to have, I'm taking this pig. He's like, what do you mean? Are you kidding? I'm like, no, I'm taking this pig. This pig can't stay here. And he's like, okay. I said, call the owner of the property, get him surrendered to me, because unfortunately pigs have no rights. Farm animals really have no rights. The owner has the rights. So if I took him off the property, it would have been literally a federal offense. Even though he wasn't being cared for properly, they would have deemed it that is okay to care for him that way. And so he surrendered him to me, and I took him to another sanctuary. I took him to Skylands in New Jersey, where he babysat. Mike from Skylands babysat him while I figured trying to buy this property, because I really didn't want this property. It was a mess, but things kept bringing me back here. I was drawn to this property time and time again. It was just, this property it was a slaughterhouse. They were killing animals here. All Arthur's families died here. We saw the kill room. There was bodies everywhere. Even when we were looking at the property, there was dead animals. And I wanted nothing to do with this property. The buildings were falling apart, and I just kept being drawn back to here. And 6 years later, almost, we're here. We have 45 pigs and 20 chickens and 6 cats and 3 dogs and lots of wildlife. And, we are on 78 acres, and we are, along with several other amazing sanctuaries, leading research into having these amazing animals live longer, healthier lives. Because a long life, if you're not healthy, is not a good life.
No. How did you come up with the name Arthur? Did they tell you the pig's name was Arthur?
No, Arthur is my grandfather.
Yeah.
And as soon as and this happens in every situation, as soon as he looked at me, he told me his name, and that was it. They're very much in tune with the animals, and that just happened right in that second. I knew his name was Arthur, and I said Arthur, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and we knew something big was going to happen.
And so basically, you founded the farm together, you and Arthur, right? You were the
Unfortunately,
two original.
yeah, unfortunately, he's at Cornell right now because he has an abscess in his neck, and he had to get treatment. And I always consider him the founder. I am just following the lead. I mean, on paper am the founder, executive director, but this place would not exist. I would never have. Sorry, Lyle is interested in coming up. This place would have never existed without Arthur. Never. I would have never purchased this property in a million. I would have walked away from it. If I didn't find Arthur, this property had no attraction to me. It was a mess. There were burn piles in the driveway, dead animals everywhere. Wanted nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Lyle has been in a few of our videos
Oh
together.
yeah, this is Farm Dog Lao.
Yeah, because I'll be working on a pig in some of your videos, and Lyle walks by because he's always around.
Hi, Lyle.
You know,
Um,
if you're listening in to the audio only, like on Spotify or Apple, just know that we shoot this as a video podcast, so it'll be on my Animal Cracker YouTube channel, and we're going to also give all the copies of everything to Todd so he can post wherever he
we'll have
chooses.
it on our YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, so it'll be both places. But when we edit this at the end, we're going to be putting in, like, you'll see Lyle on his lap right now.
There's
So
there's
if you're wondering what Lyle looks like, he's actually in the shot right now. But we'll also see clips of the pigs, of Todd in action working with them. You'll see a couple of clips of me when I was at the farm and working with pigs. And one of the first ones we did on my first visit there was the famous Louie, and Louie is no longer with us, but Louie broke everyone's heart and also warmed everybody's heart. So he had the ability to make people laugh and have a tear as well. Maybe let's just not go into any specific order because I don't have notes. I'm hands free here, but I feel like I don't need them because we're friends and we could just roll. But
without
tell us who Louie was and why that became such a like a connection for so many people. And then I came out, like Todd said, you got to come see this pig Louie, and Louie had such a heartbreaking story, but Louie had some good days too with everybody.
He did. We actually were just talking about that
Louis
recently.
had a big heart, you know, and a tragic life, but like made an impact. And that's what's crazy is like a lot of, and it's something Todd touched on already, is we all connect to a horse or a dog as an animal with the soul that we can have a relationship with, or a cat, but pigs too. And actually aren't pigs smarter than dogs actually with,
Pigs are the fourth smartest animal behind elephants, dolphins, and orangutans, and not such
right.
a but yeah.
And I challenge you to Google that. Okay. So it's not just because Todd said that, but Google, what is the list of smartest animals? And it's, Todd said fourth. That's the one I found. But if you find a different list, it would be fifth. You know, it's going to either be
Yeah,
fourth
it
or
says fourth
fifth.
or fifth, and I don't
Yeah.
know the exact order if it's
But we're,
orangutans, elephants,
yeah.
elephants. I don't know
But,
which one is that.
but we could clearly say top five on every list.
Every list.
And,
The cleanest and cleanest, just so
yeah.
everything you know about pigs is wrong. They are probably the cleanest animal.
Yeah. And it's funny because we even, made a name like, oh, you dirty pig, or you're as dirty as a pig, or we use
Such
pig
derogatory terms.
as a condescending derogatory term, and actually it's not fair.
It's wrong.
So
It's because it's easier to eat a dirty, stupid animal than it
mhm.
is the fourth or fifth smartest animal and the cleanest animal. So everything you know, and I tell people this all the time, is wrong. Happier than a pig and poop. Not a thing unless they're locked in a stall and never allowed out. My pigs are litter box trained. My potbellies, the farm pigs will never pee, poop, or defecate inside their area, inside where they eat, where they sleep. They go out in the morning and then they go to the bathroom.
And they all know their names,
Yes,
like
all know their names.
no,
100%.
when I'm at the farm, Todd's like, hey, Carl's head turns, boom, Carl, come here. Carl walks over to him, you know.
People
So
are
it's,
so. That's like we do tours a lot. We do tours almost
yeah.
every day, and that's literally people that just don't know us right away are dumbfounded because I'll walk up and I'll say, "Hey, Joaquin," "Hey, Carl," and they're like, "Hey, hey," like, and that's like because for me, it's just that's my life. So I'll be like, "Hey, come here," "Morty, come here, more." He'll walk over and they're like, "Did that?" They know their names. I'm like, "Yeah, like everything you know about pigs is wrong."
Here's another thing you don't know what you're wrong about pigs is you think they're fat and slow, but they can move.
Oh yeah.
I'm telling you, they have top speeds of, I don't know, what is it? They're fast.
Yeah, they're fast. I mean, again, that's another thing that's all up in the air from 20 to 30 miles an hour. I mean,
Yeah.
I've chased and not caught pigs through the woods in rescue situations. And if a pig's running full speed, I mean, I can't even come close to catching them. And if they're hungry, forget it. Then they're in turbo. But yeah,
Yeah.
I can't. They're incredible from 20 to 30 miles an hour. Easy. I mean, they're
Yeah.
just. I mean, not the bigger ones. I think the smaller ones are faster than the bigger ones. But my younger pigs, and not in a chance in heck could I catch them.
So it's really cool to get to know a pig. So tell us about Louie because that was my first touch at your farm. Because when we talked on the phone, you said there's one specific pig I need you to come see, and I wound up seeing a few pigs that day, of course, but there was one major focus when the first time you and I connected, which was Louie. And tell us how Louie came to be in your life, and we'll go from there.
A few years ago, we were called by my vet and said, we do nutritional counseling completely for free
Mhm.
because there's so much misinformation out there with the internet and other sources. So my vet called me up and said, "Hey, I'm doing a visit on the house, and these people need your help. You got to help this pig. He's obese. He can't walk. It's really bad. Can you talk to them?" I said, "Of course." 2 minutes later, he called back. He's like, "You got to take him. They're going to kill him. You got to take him." And the one of the first things I say when I go into a situation where I'm gonna talk to people about taking their animal because they're not doing them right is, it is possible to love an animal to death and you're doing it. That's my script because letting them know that, they love him, but they're loving him the wrong way. They're loving him with food. So these people bought him at a county fair, did not do research. A lot of municipalities, he was a potbelly, are considered farm animals. So you have to be zoned for a farm animal. They weren't zoned for a farm animal, so they didn't want to get caught. So they just left him in their living room or their dining room. He lived in their dining room for 2 years, became incredibly obese. At some point, broke his leg and did not fracture his leg and did not get medical attention because they probably just didn't know because his body just couldn't handle the weight. We took him, we got him losing weight, we got him walking a little, and he because of the obesity, because of the malnourishment, his arthritis was through the roof. And we would work them for 2 years, with Cornell's involvement. You came and unlocked his TMJ. And
And he was young. Like this is
yeah,
not an old
he
arthritic.
was he was a little over 3 years old when he
Yeah,
passed
so
away.
we're not talking about a senior pig that would have arthritis. We're talking about a 2 or 3 year old pig that was riddled with arthritis because of the care that it was getting or the non care that it was getting.
Yeah, it took 4 or 5 of us to get him out of their house in a stretcher, and he was just not walking. And just it was tragic because they they loved him to death. They killed him 100%
Mhm.
by their love and their um, lack of knowledge, lack of research. I get in a lot of situations, like sweat like a pig. It doesn't exist. Pigs don't sweat. So they can't have salt. If they have any, they can have minimal amount of salt. They have to have access to clean water to clean the salt out of their system and keep them cool and everything like that. And they get swollen. And they were giving him like, and pigs are most the time vegan. They're opportunistic. So if they're starving, they'll eat anything, but they eat grass. They love grass. They'll be out grazing. They get nutrients from the soil that helps them. And so they were feeding him dog food and dog treats and giving him dog bones and bacon, like those bacon stupid dog bacons. I don't know what they're called, but there's fake strips of bacon for dogs, and they were giving him that. And I caught him doing it. They're like, "We're just doing that because you're here to try to get him up." I'm like, "No, you're lying." And people lie to themselves and they lie to me. And it was a sad situation. I'm not saying they were bad people. They were just bad pig owners with that loved an animal that didn't know how to care for them. And so we had him here for a year. He lost weight. He was on the road to recovery, and then his legs gave out. And um, after several consultations, he was at Cornell trying to do everything in the world for this boy, and they said he's never going to walk again. And we believe in a quality of life. We don't believe in quantity. So we believe in dignity, and we won't allow a pig to suffer and to defecate and urinate out themselves. It's not like they communicate. So it's not like a person in a wheelchair can communicate their feelings where he would just, he was bedbound, and we didn't think that was fair. And he was miserable, and we knew he was miserable, and we had to, say goodbye. And it was very unfortunate because we had some peaks in there, and he had friends. Morty was up here, and Morty would sleep with him every night. So he had friends. We'd bring him outside and lay him out with the umbrella in the sun, and he would be able to get up a little bit and go into the mud. So he had a good year, and my, he sticks at me. He hurts my soul. There's not a day that goes by. I have a tattoo of him. He affected me. He affected a lot of people because it was the story of just hope, and we had the hope for him to get better. And, I just, in my head, like, we'd get him up and he'd be walking and he'd take a few steps. And I was like, and then automatically in my head, I'd go to, I can't wait to see him in the pasture with friends
Mm.
and walking around. And then it really just never happened. And he
Yeah.
did have friends and he did walk around a little, but it turned into a tragic ending. So
Yeah. And it's incredible. If you ever get a chance to go to Todd's and Arthur's place, let's call Todd and Arthur. Um, but like different pigs bond to each other. So like, who did you say it was? Morty decided that he loves Louie, and Morty would like
every night.
bunk with him. He would crawl in next to him and warm each other. It's just beautiful. Some of these relationships that come through,
Oh, and
and
several pigs. I mean, several
yeah.
pigs were in and out of his stall, sleeping next to him. So he was the thing we say. He had a terrible beginning, and he had a great year. I mean, he had
Mhm.
friends. He saw the sun. He went in the mud. He wilded. He had food that was
Mhm.
healthy, and some snacks in there. Um, Medical care, pain relief. He never had pain relief before that. So he had pain
Yeah.
relief. So why my soul hurts, because I just, like I said, I think about him every day. He had a
Mhm.
good year, so I consider that a successful life with what we were dealt, you know. So
Mhm.
I can look at it as an absolute failure, which I am hard on myself, and I do really do, and I'm trying to be positive. I feel like I failed him, uh, but when I can rationalize in my head, I do think that he had a really good year. He had a
Yeah.
really good year.
I mean, I know Todd as I think of it almost sometimes as a MASH unit. If anybody ever saw the TV show or the movie MASH, where you're like in the trenches, and sometimes these casualties of war come in. War meaning the lives they've had to live before they met you, and you immediately roll up your sleeves and jump in. And you're not only you, but your whole team. He's got a team of volunteers and therapists and nutritionists
We
and
call it the village.
yeah, and the vets that help his project out, and you can't save every casualty of this type of abuse. And we'll talk a little bit more, but that's just one, which was kind of a situation where they locked Louie into a dining room.
Yep.
Louie never got his feet on soil in his life until he met Todd. That's why I do think it was a successful year. And I remember when I went out there, you took me into this part of the barn where he was, or stall where he was laying down on his side, and he was moaning, and he was crying and moaning because he was in constant pain, and it just breaks your heart. I mean, I was touched beyond belief. We're all sitting there with tears in our eyes, but we had a really good visit, and I'm going to put the link to that because we made a really nice video, and Todd talks a lot about his work there. And then you also see me working with Louie. And then we made a second video with Louie called Part Two. And I'll put that link in also. So if you ever get a chance, check on it. And you'll get to see that day and really see. I remember that day you were telling me, and it's something I was aware of, but I guess I really never connected to the dots. But it would be great for you to share this, which is like you were telling us that on video, so this is in Louis Part One, if you come and see it, that there's no such thing as really a mini pig. And tell us what that means, because it's a concept that people don't really get, and they need to get that.
Well, there's a couple of different things. So a mini pig, uh, they consider a mini pig anything under 600 pounds. There's no such thing as a teacup pig. There's no such thing as a micro pig. And this is a constant, exhausting daily battle that we fight with unscrupulous breeders that are trying to sell people an animal that actually does not exist in the world. And that's the craziness that we deal with. That's the fight that we fight every day, because it's literally, you have a better chance of having a unicorn in your house than a 25-pound healthy pig.
Some of these illegal or unethical breeders will say, yeah, you could buy this micro pig from me and it's so cute. It'll be in your living room in your house and it's never going to get bigger than an average large dog.
No, they
And,
don't even say that. They think there's people who say it's going to be 20 pounds, 25 pounds.
and never be bigger or cute. It's going to stay cute in 25
Be
pounds
in
its
your
whole
apartment in
life.
New York City and it's great and you don't have to do this, blah, 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 blah. What they'll do is they can get pregnant at such an early age. They'll be like, oh, here's mom and dad, and they're fully grown. And mom and dad are like 10 or 11 months old. And they just had a baby because they can get pregnant so soon, such an early age. That literally after a few weeks, after you have to wean them from mom, or they'll get siblings pregnant.
So a micro pig can get 500-600 pounds.
I mean, it depends. I mean, not
Well,
really. If it's a really just a pot belly, they can get 250 on a bad day, 300
yeah.
pounds easy. Anything over that, they just bred with a farm pig, and it's basically ginormous. But the problem is that they tell you to feed them like an eighth of a cup of food twice a day, and that's it. So we get them, and we've rescued a few of them, and we rescued two of them right now. We have Penny Lane that we've had for a long time, that came to us at 30 pounds, and she was emaciated. She was deformed at 5 years old. And now she's 70 pounds because she was so deformed. But they literally, these animals die at a very young age of malnourishment. Their organs shut down and collapse, and they die because they starve to death. We had
Mm.
one situation years ago that the woman was keeping the pig in a fishbowl because she was told they would only grow to the size of their environment, like a fish. And that pig died. So it's literally something, and it's crazy because these people have websites and Facebook page and Instagrams that are viral and talking about a teacup pig and a micro pig, and they'll pay. We've seen people pay $5,000 and $8,000 for these animals, and then we get the call. My
Yeah.
pig is getting bigger every day. Blah, 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 blah. It's just, it's just, they're feeding them is what they're doing. They fed them the proper amount and they got to be normal sized, the healthiest. Now, only because Penny was malnourished is she 70 pound, but literally the healthiest, the lightest pig healthy is 90 pounds.
Right.
90 pounds. And
And
that's
that
really, to us, that's tiny. That's a small pig.
right. So, well, tell us this other thing you taught me when I was there too, which is what's this fat blindness? Now I know, but I want you to share it with people. So,
So,
because that's the other
yeah,
extreme.
that's the other extreme.
So we have emaciated, and then we have fat blindness, which is when people go the other direction. And you know, tell us what that is.
So unfortunately, again, you have the other end of the spectrum where people overfeed. They feed because, one, they get a pig just like Louie. They're not allowed outside. So what makes pigs happy is food. Um, so, and even not that, even because of society, because what we've learned, growing up is like pigs, you could feed them everything. They'll eat everything. You just dump off. They're like garbage disposals, which they're not. And so people just empty their plates into the pig's dish and just feed them, feed them, feed them. And they become so fat that the fat grows around their face and then they can't see. And depending on how long they're overweight for or obese, um, the um, the nerves in the eye can get weak and they can be blind forever, even if they lose weight. We have Sullivan, who came to us at 400 pounds. He was locked in a garage in New Jersey, and he was mobile and barely. And we literally, he's about 180 pounds now, so he lost 220 pounds, and he had a facelift. So he had to have the some of the extra fat cut off and pushed aside, and he has very little vision. He could see shadows, and so
So what happens? And I'm going to put a picture of this up so you'll see what we're talking about. But the brow fat ridge falls over the opening of the eye, and no light gets in. And
nothing,
then
nothing.
these
I mean,
the
they have
optic nerve needs to have stimulus. The receptors need to have light occasionally. And if there turns out to be total darkness for months and possibly years, then even if the pig, and I'm just restating this, but to really hammer home the concept. So, but even if the pig loses 200 pounds and now has an opening, or they have the surgical lift of it to get some light in there, it doesn't mean that the receptors will ever kick back on, or they don't kick back on at full tilt. They'll get partial.
Yeah, I think he sees shadows, and it's really tragic because one, it's a pretty intensive operation. It's not,
Mm.
Charles is here at my feet, and he lost about 75 pounds, and he was mechanically blind, and he can't open his eyes fully, but we kind of feel like it's a pretty invasive surgery, and he can see and get around, so we're not going
Mhm.
to subject him to that. But he doesn't have great eyesight, and so it's incredibly common, and that's one of the reasons we do nutritional counseling with people. And
Mhm.
so I do it several times a week. We don't charge. You just call me up. I tell you how to, the right way to feed your pig. And it's very individualized because you can't take an obese pig and just give them what normal pigs eat, because you'll shock the body and they'll have issues. So we gradually take them down food wise. And I hate to say the word diet, because it's not a diet. It's literally, they're going to eat what they're supposed to be eating.
Mhm.
They're going to eat what is nutritionally healthy for them.
Right.
And it drives me out of my head when people have cakes for their pigs and this and that. And it's like, when we do parties here, we do parties for the rescue anniversaries all the time. And we make up like we'll do pumpkin, and then we'll put a little dairy-free yogurt and some blueberries and fun stuff like that. And we do treats. We're not perfect, so we do have animal crackers, which is like 3 ingredients. They're organic. They're the best of the worst. And so I always tell people, when you give your pig a cupcake or a piece of cake, that's for you. Your pig is just as happy getting a cucumber or
Right.
an apple. When you give them cake, that's for likes on the internet, to see a pig eat a piece of cake, or cupcake. That's for likes. That's for your attention. That's not for that pig, because that's not good. It's not good for us. It's not good for you. It's not good for the pig. And so, give your pig, go get an Oreo, which are accidentally vegan and not very good for you, but it is a cookie, and get a cucumber, and give your pig an Oreo, and then give them a cucumber. There's no difference in the reaction. They're just as happy.
And so it is. It's like they're doing what makes them happy, the human.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're selfish society, so
I don't remember the names of the two pigs, but I think it was the second time I came to your farm. I worked with two pigs that had burns on their backs from medical testing. And
Vivian. I think it was Vivian and Faye. I don't know exactly. I mean, you work with Max, who was fell off a transport truck, and he was a baby, and he had a hurt knee, and you work with him, and that was very
yeah, and
successful.
there was one that had these scars on their back.
We have six. We have six pigs that are being burned for medical testing. They had
So,
18 stainless steel rods burned into their back at 4 months old.
and why is that done?
It's medical testing. Any product you buy that's not vegan and cruelty free has animal products, and does require, a lot of them require animal testing, even though
Yeah.
it's really the findings aren't really reliable. There's a lot better options than burning an animal for burn tests. It
So
was for burn tests.
how did you get? You could just give one example, but how did you get one of these medically tested pigs to come to your farm? Like, how did that transit?
Through a mutual relationship with the lab. The lab actually gave them up, and a lot of times they die because of infection, and so if they survive, they usually euthanize them. I guess they found it okay to let there's a bunch out there, and we try to make room for them. We don't condone it in any way, shape, or form. Um, uh, but we do have a soft spot, because they live 4 months, and they're burned. They're burned.
Yeah,
They take
I mean,
18 rods.
yeah, I saw it. It was like really upsetting for me to
Oh, it
see
is,
that.
and several
You
of
know,
them is there. It's We have a few. We have six, and a couple of are fine. You can see them. We have to add sunscreen to that. I mean, the two.
yeah.
I think it was Faye and Vivian. It could have been Joy and Ren. I don't remember, but The Faye and Vivian have cadaver skin, so they have human skin on their back.
Wow.
Um, and they're tattooed around them and numbered, and so they can keep track. So they have tattoos on
Yeah.
their backs. They have burns on their back. It's
And
basically
multiple scars. We're talking
18,
about like, let's try
18.
it again. Yeah, 18 scars. So let's do it again, and then let's do it again, and let's do it again. So I guess they can try all different techniques or variables, or it becomes all 18 different projects on the animal's back over time, and these are excruciatingly painful to have these level of burns to experiment with. And then you have this like loving pig that you're working with. I mean,
Oh,
they're like,
that's the craziest thing is that they love people. They really. I mean, Faye and Vivian are 825 pounds. They walk around here. They're incredibly sweet to people, and you would think they just absolutely hate people, and they don't.
mhm.
They don't.
Now, Max was a great story. Now, Max is this. My son's name is Max, and I've seen Max a couple of times. But Max has such a great story. It could be a movie of the week almost. But recap Max's story, because Max was on a transfer truck on the way to be slaughtered, right?
So they're born at 6 weeks old. They're brought to a facility to just feed them till they're 6 months old, till they die, till their day of their death at 6 months
Mm,
old. So to the day they're slaughtered. So a lot of times, because these trucks are filled with these like 6 and 7 pound babies, loading them, one will just run away, and they really don't want that pig back because they don't want to bring anything foreign into the slaughterhouse or the fattening facility. So he was running along a road after escaping the truck, and these people saw him like run across the road, and they're like, "What was that?" They didn't even know it was like this. At one point, they're like, "Is that a ghost?" Like it's just this little white thing.
how big was it, do you
6
think?
pounds, six and a quarter pounds. So he was tiny. He was this big.
What do you think? He rolled out of a gap or something on the
He could have
truck, or
rolled out a gap. They load him up. He could have fell and just ran. And they're not going to chase the pig.
right?
If it runs back, that's fine. But they're not going to chase the pig. Could have fell out a gap. We get that because you'll see because it's really more common than you would think. You'll see when a sanctuary grabs them or other rescues find one, they're road rashed like crazy. So he had some road rash on him.
So he's running across. It looks like a something to someone,
They
and
had no idea.
yeah, and they scooped him
So
up.
and they had him for a couple of days. They called me and they're like, and very nice people, and they're like, "Oh, we got this pig, and we got him eating and drinking." And I was like, "Okay." And so I'm like, "Is it a male or a female?" And they're like, "We don't know." I said, "You need to bring to me right away because if you don't know, he or she is dehydrated. Because if he doesn't pee down and he doesn't pee out the back." You would see it. A baby pees all day long. And if he's been with you for a few days and you don't know if it's a male or female because he hasn't peed in front of her, she hasn't peed in front of you, there's problems. He's dehydrated. And we got him. It was Labor Day weekend, I believe. It was either Memorial Day or Labor Day. I have to look it up. But it was the Friday, and I said, "You got to bring him to me right now because he needs to go to the vet, and vets aren't going to be around." And so we raced him right to the vet. He had to be on IV fluids because he was so dehydrated. He had diarrhea, and diarrhea is terrible. Diarrhea is very dangerous for a baby, and so he had diarrhea, so he was on IV fluids, and now he's 700 pounds.
Wow, he's a big guy.
Yeah,
And
he's
your biggest one we've done a few visits with too is King Carl,
King Carl,
and
927 pounds.
and Carl kind of has this great personality. He's the papa bear of the whole place, right?
Large and in charge, and he's the protector of them all, of all 17 large pigs, and he is large and in charge, and he
Okay.
is does it in such a kind way.
And he is. I was on his back. I'm massaging him and giving him an adjustment, and uh, worked several times with him. And he's just such a great guy. He's like a great guy. And it's fun to connect. Tell us, tell us maybe a story. I mean, you told us one already, but maybe one that just, you know, like he's just still haunts you to this day, that broke your heart, but maybe might define a little bit about what it's like for you to be in this world. I mean, it's full of joy, but it's sorrow. You have both ends of the spectrum. I don't know how much middle ground you get, because you get such peaks, but then you also
There's a few hours a
have
week, maybe.
yeah, but you also have the bayonet and the heart type of life too. Like you have both extremes, and I empathize with you for that.
We had a situation probably around about a year ago, maybe a little more, and we were called about a pig in Georgia. Oh no, it had to be maybe 2 years ago because we didn't have a van. So we were called about a pig that was locked in a silo, a feeding silo, with a broken leg, just suffering. And so they sent me pictures. It was in Georgia. Oh, so I said, I was had to set things up. So I said, okay, I'm gonna take her. And so just suffering, like in a metal floor feeding silo in the middle of Georgia, in the middle of the woods. The guy was being a jerk. Only wanted certain people on the property, and we needed to get like a lot of people on the property to get her out of this locked in a silo. Just grew up in a silo, locked with a broken leg, and just emaciated and horrible. Flights booked, hotels booked, van. I had to rent a van in Georgia to bring her back. It was all set up, getting ready to leave the airport. This woman had the vet sedate her, which haunts me to this day because you just wouldn't sedate an animal in this situation, to get her out of the silo and bring her back to her house. And she didn't wake up the next morning. And I never met the animal, but she was already a part of me. I'm named her after, I don't want to say the name because I named her after my little cousin who passed away. And it's really, it's painful for my cousin who was her mother. And so I don't want to say her name because it would hurt. But, because we were so close. Like we were so close. The owner, he let us take her and we were set. And, if I was there, I would have got her out. I have no patience for people, but I have all the patience in the world for animals. None, but I would have sat with her for days if I had to and got her out. And just, you just, an animal that's dehydrated, and I just would never, it would be never my call to sedate, and I would always be against it. But it was not my call. I wasn't involved in that. And she didn't survive because sedation is really hard on pigs. But,
Yeah. And it's still with you.
oh no, it's with
yeah.
me. There's an image that it's unfortunately on my phone and I don't even know where it is, but, it's burned into my soul.
Yeah.
And it's so close.
You brought up something that comes up in my work a lot, or I observe it all the time. Like I was at this great farm that I love to visit called Tamerlane Animal Sanctuary and Preserve, and right now they have about 300 or just shy of 300 animals, but every single one has a name. And they know every single name. So you walk into the goat area where there's like 45 goats and they're like, hey, Charlie, hey, Susie, hey, Kim, hey, Sally, hey,
They're our
Tara, hey,
family.
like,
They're our
yeah.
family.
And everyone has a name. And then they go into the chicken area, and chickens usually don't have names, or at least if you have 3 chickens, fine, but not 50 chickens. Nobody names 50 chickens, right? Because it's so easy if they don't have a name to don't give a crap about them. Then they become the collateral, they're expendable. They're not important. But as soon as you name one, so we name our dogs, we name our horses, we name 3 chickens if you own 3 chickens. But the lesson here is that we distance ourselves from animals we don't care about and we think are expendable, and they're
There's a
nothing
lot of
to us.
cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Perfect.
and so even like you were just saying, you already were formulating a name for this new relationship you're about to enter. And because it wasn't just this serial number, it was a soul. It was a living connection, and you were already planning on connecting and adopting and helping this animal. And so I think that's so important for people to see, that the more distance we are, we don't have to care anymore. And the moment we create a connection and commit to that connection, you'll see the magic of a pig. Like a pig can have a relationship. It's the craziest thing. And if you don't believe me, then go and check it out yourself, because you will see that there's a relationship here. So, I just respect what you do so much, and you're a hero to me. And I would encourage people to check out his social media, check out his donation page on his website. stay connected to Todd. He posts all the time, so you get to see him in action and see his thoughts, and he shares from his heart all the time, and he shares these great animals and what they're going through, and their trials and tribulations and ups and downs and grief sometimes and happiness. So check it out. If you can give him a few dollars a month, that would be amazing. Contribute if you can. It's all in the links below. It's all connected. I'm even putting it on the screen here where you could read it. But in closing, I wanted to ask you, Todd, like, how has how many years has it been since you really launched your own? With
6,
6.
almost just about 6.
How do you think I always like to ask people how it's changed you as a person, and you've kind of shared it already, but like working with animals, especially at your level, will forever change us. And, you know, do you have something that comes to mind about that circle?
It's who I am now. There's nothing. I don't want to go on vacation. I don't want to sit on a beach. I don't want to go to Paris. I don't want to go, to Rome. I don't want to. I could be forced to go out to dinner, and that's probably the extent I want. I'm going to go to a couple concerts, but this is what I do. This is my life. This is what I want to get up to do. This is what I've been put on the earth to do. This is what I'm going to die doing. This is who I am, and this is who I want to be. Is it harder than I can ever expect it? I'm 54 years old. I worked till I was 45. I started working till I was 13, and I didn't have any reason to work. There was no meaning in my work. There was no passion in my work. It was just working to make money to survive, to pay my bills, to work, there was no passion. I have passion. This is what I've been put on the earth to do. At times kills my soul, but it feeds my soul at the same time. And so it's changed me forever. I don't need or want for anything. I don't need to go to a mall and buy junk. If I don't need anything like that. I don't, my life is very simple on one aspect and complicated on the other with the animals and the rescue. But all I want is for the animals. I want them to have a better life. Their pasts are so bad that each day I want to make it better so that they forget their past. Mm-hmm. And that's my goal, is to, just make every day better than the last so they forget their past, because their past have been so tragic. And if that happens, then I'm successful. And we've done it so much for so many animals in our team here. And I consider that a success. If I die tomorrow, I did something in my lifetime, not just made money to pay my bills and go away and be never, left no legacy. My dream, my absolute dream, is the world to go vegan and me not to be needed, because we're not abusing and using animals anymore. We're not exploiting them in circuses. We're not eating them. We're not torturing them. We're not slaughtering them. And the dream is to be unemployed. And I am a volunteer. I do not get paid. So my dream is to have the last animal here die of old age, throw the keys in the door, and to disappear.
That's awesome. All right. I think that's a good place to close.
Thank you.
I so admire and respect you, and you touch my heart every time I have a chance to have a moment with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I hope people connect to what you're doing. They should at least see your Instagram, your YouTube, your Facebook, see what he's doing. It's so much fun to watch your posts too, because they're cute and beautiful and warming, and that makes me feel like a better, it makes me feel more human to watch what you're doing.
Then it's working. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And great. Thanks, everybody. All right. Take care.